This is the show where you can ask anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the place where you can ask all your questions, and there's no judgment, there's no roasting, there's no debating. So long as you are asking in good faith, you will be given a good faith answer. So, everybody's welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. This is not a show for fighting or harassing or bullying. You're not going to get called a fascist here or a cuck. That is not what we do here. I know there's a lot of very popular shows on the internet where Republicans and Democrats just scream at each other, but that is not what we do here. We just engage on the substance in good faith, and hopefully we can all have a better understanding of what is going on in our country and government. Griff says, "Do you identify more as a liberal or a leftist?" I think you could I think most people would describe me as a leftist. I'm sure that there are some leftists who would call me a liberal. From what I understand, leftist is kind of like the far left, and liberal is like the center left. So I would describe myself as a leftist. Yeah, I call myself a progressive Democrat. Great to see you again. Fletch lives. Kirsten says opinions on Restore UK. It's a far right party. Am I wrong, Kirsten? And we don't care for far right parties, right? We don't like AFD. We don't like MAGA. We don't like Restore. We don't like the Tories. Whatever, whatever your right wing party is, the the Ask Me Anything About Politics show is not for it. But excellent questions so far. Kirsten says, "Hell no, we don't. We don't truck with them. We don't like them." Right, Kirsten? I think I'm reading you correctly. So yeah, welcome everybody. This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they right wing or left wing. It does not matter. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. What's up, Mia? Great to see you again. So yeah, go ahead and throw your questions in the chat. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I know that things are particularly weird these days with all the misinformation and propaganda that's bouncing around out there willy nilly. So, this is where you can come for all your questions about politics so that we can all have a better shared understanding of what's going on in our government and what we can do to make things better going forward. Lady Lisa says, "Now that Kristi Noem is fired, who do you think will be next?" Who do I think will be fired next? I have no idea. Like the Trump administration is, it's a barrel of caffeinated simians. They don't really have a lot. There's no like ethos. It's just whatever Lord King Farquaad Trump the First decides on that day. You know, that is what happens. This is what happens when you put a psychopath in charge of everything, and then everybody that works for the psychopath eliminates the balance of powers. Rob Hoops says 0 jobs created in 15 months. What happened? Trump happened. Tariffs, AI, trade war, real war. Yeah, yeah. Hyper monopolization. Yeah, this is squarely on the shoulders of Trump and the Republican Party. Like there's no two bones about it. All right, welcome everybody to Ask Me Anything About Politics. David says, "Can I come up?" I usually don't have people up in the very beginning of the live stream, David. I am mercurial about it. So if you stick around, ask a couple questions, maybe I will change my mind. But it is not a regular thing, you know? Welcome everybody to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome here. Republican, Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. I do not judge your political beliefs. I only am here to engage on the substance. David says, "I wanted to ask about political division in Democrats and conservatives." All right, too long of a question to ask in the chat, David. Maddie B says, "Jarrett, sir, have you been to the desolate wasteland of Jarrett, Texas?" This is Jarrett, Texas. I had no idea. Nico says, "Yo, screw politics. You play RE9? I don't know what RE9 is." Mon says, "Do you think they hide our casualties?" I do think that I mean, the Trump administration is lying to us. They're lying to us about everything that they can. They're lying to us about job numbers, about inflation, about the cost of things like the ballroom and the Kennedy Center and shit like that. So, yeah, I do not trust our government to tell us exactly how many American soldiers have been killed. But here's the thing. The number of American soldiers that have been killed that we know about are, number one, unacceptable, and number two, a product of their own incompetence and poor planning. Like, there are thousands of Americans in the Middle East right now who are begging the State Department to help them get out. And the Trump administration did not have the fucking foresight to think, oh, maybe we might want to prepare for getting American civilians out of the fucking Middle East before we start bombing indiscriminately. David says, are you neutral to movements? I don't know what you mean by that. Are there specific movements that you are referring to? D. Scott and Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Blue Period says, what's your opinion on the EU? I'm for it. I think it was one of the stupidest things that the UK could have done to have left the EU. Rob Hoop says, we left 200 Japanese in Iran. Did Americans do that? Oops, it's me, Angel says, is Canada involved? I do not believe that Canada is involved. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, David, what was this thing you wanted to ask about political division in Democrats and conservatives? Louvre says, do you support ICE? No, I do not. Ecuadorian, great to see you again. Clara Koenig says, Trump's people plan is working first Venezuela, and now we're going for Iran, Cuba, Mexico, and Colombia. I think you're being sarcastic, Clara. Baki Slough says, the soldiers knew the trade. They chose to murder brown people for college, now found out. I mean, I don't really love throwing the enlisted under the bus because they were handed a really shitty deal. They were being told that the only way out of poverty was to do this thing, and they put their trust and faith in the American government without knowing exactly who's going to be in charge of the American government. So, yeah, I am not going to blame the voters, and I'm not going to blame individual soldiers. I am going to blame the people at the top of the food chain who are making all these stupid fucking decisions that are throwing regular ass people like you and me under the bus. Bakislau, oh no, I'm having an unstable internet connection today. Bakislau says, we've only been doing the same thing with the military for 40 years. Yeah, but it's worse now. It's worse, you know. Rob Bob says, hey, JB, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you too. Oh no, I'm having connection issues. What the fuck's going on? How strange. Relativity, hello. Oh my goodness. Yeah, sorry about the connection industry issues, everybody on TikTok. This doesn't usually happen. I know every guy says that, but I swear, this is not normal for me. Okay, hopefully I'm back for everybody over there on TikTok. Ecuadorian says, Jarrett, so I'm not a Democrat, not a Republican, but if just Democrats win the special elections and the midterms, is there anything that will force Trump to stop doing what he has been doing? And is there any chance it would get him to force him to pull out of my country of Ecuador? The things that Democrats will be able to do if we win the midterms depend on how many seats we win in the midterms. Mostly it will be just to stop the bleeding. Mostly it will be just stopping the bad things that are currently happening, but it will probably not result in Trump pulling people out of Ecuador. I didn't even know that people were in Ecuador, you know? Ooh, no sound. Fuck me. Yeah, fuck me. What is going on here, guys? Yeah, because I was seeing the audio over here for you guys. Fuck. Can you guys hear this? Fuck. Mm-hmm. Oy, 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 oy. I'm going to restart my TikTok live stream, and hopefully I can fix it that way. Relativity says, what do you think about Epstein? I don't like him. I do not care for that Epstein fellow. All right, TikTok, let me know if my audio is working again. Welcome, everybody, to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated. Let me know if my audio is working, because it wasn't previously, and so I had to restart. So keep me abreast of that situation, everybody. I know that politics can be really intimidating if you're first trying to learn about it. All right, we are back, everybody. So yeah, David, what was your question about division between Democrats and conservatives that you wanted to ask? Can you type it out? Is it HLM says glory to Israel and the IDF? That's a block. Congratulations. To everybody else, welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. I am not here to judge you or roast you or debate you or bully you. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. Love Scro says, can you tell me why ICE is bad and give factual info, not opinions? Absolutely. ICE is behaving like a rogue agency. They had their funding tripled, and they are ignoring people's civil rights. They are rounding up brown people indiscriminately and holding them illegally in detention camps. There is reporting that is saying that there is sexual assault happening in these detention camps. We know of at least 10 people that have been murdered by ICE, and we are not seeing any accountability in ICE or CPB or in the White House. David says political division about people using their larger to further antagonize each other. I mean, I'm not for people fighting, so I don't know what the question is. Ed says, do you think Pegasus' request to have unfettered AI is a bipartisan issue? It should be. I think that generally, if you saw Terminator 2 or Terminator 1, you should generally be against autonomous killing machines powered by AI. So, Loves Gross says, where can I find this info? Shoot me a DM if you want the data, Loves Grow. I can give you things to Google if you like. Lauren, great to see you again. Thank you so much for being here. David says, lack of understanding between parties over reality based on personal gain. I think it's pretty complicated, or maybe it's overly complicated, but it's like the billionaire class is using social media and paid bot accounts to get people into fights with each other so that Democrats think that their enemy is Republican voters, and Republican voters think their enemy is Democratic voters. Centrist voters think that their enemy is progressive voters. Progressive voters think that their enemy is centrist voters, etc., etc. Okay, Laura Gibbons Voorhees says, can Congress limit Iran war by yanking funds? They can. I sure wish that they would. Steve Ginkle says, is Ukraine going to be in short supply by U.S. Using up our stockpile of missiles? That is something that I am very much concerned about, Steve. Adri says, saying you just like both sides for me is low-key just a lazy way to take an easy exit, in my opinion. Completely agree with that, Adri. If you pay attention to politics, you should understand, you should recognize that the Republican Party is a lot worse than the Democratic Party, and that they're vastly different parties, and there are vastly different outcomes depending on who is in charge, both on the state and federal level. D. Scott says, we're going to be in short supply at this rate. That's the reporting that I saw said that too, D. Scott. ED says, is America's AI race with China necessary for keeping our position as a global superpower? I think that there probably is some truth to that statement, EDE. I think it's a little overstated, and I think that the AI industry is raking us over the coals so that we can fund their private enterprise that is making them into billionaires, Lovesco says, can you explain why Dem stayed seated when Trump asked all to stand in support of America's people? Yeah, Trump does a lot of shady messaging via the State of the Union. And I believe the Democratic Party is correctly saying, we are not going to play your game. The Trump administration was saying, Trump said during the State of the Union, stand up if you believe we should prioritize the safety of Americans over undocumented immigrants. But it was the CPB and ICE that has killed American immigrants, that has killed American citizens. In their goal of getting rid of immigrants, they have murdered American citizens. And so I do not believe that we need to stand for a president who does that and is trying to make a show of saying that, oh, we really care about protecting American citizens. Gabe says, we're so far from World War III. Why are people scared? I believe people are scared because we have psychopaths in charge of the nuclear weapons. Dem Slayer says, how many people were unalived by ICE under Obama? I don't know, but Obama was not encouraging that. Obama did not triple ICE's budget. Obama did not put a racist named Stephen Miller in charge of ICE and CPB. Demslayer. So there you go. Love Scrow says, oh, like the woman who tried running the guy over and that nurse guy who went with a gun. You know, Love Scrow, I'm starting to suspect that you might not be here in good faith. And no, those are not the only people that ICE and CBP have murdered. And no, the woman did not try to run the guy over. And no, the nurse did not have a gun when they murdered him. They actually took the gun away from him before they murdered him. Law Reader says, did you know anyone can take the bar in Virginia without a JD? I don't know what that is. Bruh says, if you like crashing economies, Republicans are who you should support. Accurate as hell. Demslayer says, host literally knows nothing. That is an example of the kind of comment that gets you blocked because it's not a question. Okay. Scott Clara says, we are shooting $1 billion missiles to shoot down 50K drones. That is accurate. Luke Rich says, what was Bill Clinton's paternal grandmother called? I don't know. 312MQ says, do you think Trump will take up Zelensky's deal for the drones? I have not seen anything about that deal. Lady K says, how many Democrats are supporting this war in Congress? I don't know. We kind of have to wait for those votes to come through. But I believe the vast majority of them will not be voting to fund the war. Righty. Malbec says, Howard Dean must be kind of disappointed in retrospect, huh? I think so. 312MQ says, do you think the U.S. is surprised it wasn't as easy to defeat Iran? I don't know if surprised is the word that I would use. It does not seem as though the Trump administration did any planning or forethought before they started this war with Iran. So, yeah, I mean, if you count that as being surprised, you know. BB Fan says, do you know if it's true that our stockpiles are running low? Reporting is saying that, BB Fan. I don't know because I haven't gone out there and count, but the reporters are all saying that that's accurate. Tiki Torque says, Trump just thought Iran was going to fall like Iraq. I don't even think that Trump thought that. I didn't even think that he thought that far ahead. I think he was just, bombs cool, money good, Trump sleepy, go sleep now. Triska Fallon says, how would the voting from yesterday change what's happening? Oof. The voting from yesterday. Which voting are you referring to, Triska? Bruh says, does Congress have the votes to veto this war? Oh, excuse me. I don't believe that they do because I believe the Republican Party is still going to be voting for it. Let's see here. This guy X is writing, Trump hates you, silly boy. Well, yeah, I'm Jewish. He hates all Jews. Bruh says, I already did that one. 312 says, Zelensky deal is that they would help intercept Iran drones for more missiles. That seems like a pretty good deal to me. Average Joe, great to see you again, says, Iran hit an American Patriot missile site in the UAE. No injuries reported. All right, well, yeah. So now we have even fewer Patriot missiles now because of that. Triska says, sorry, voting they did in Congress regarding the war. I don't know the specifics about that, Triska. I'm so sorry. But shoot me a DM if you like. I'll look into it. V, great to see you again. John says, someone threw a beer at Trump, but it was a draft beer and he dodged it. Excellent. Liam says, Trump's the GOAT, the greatest of all time at starting stupid, expensive wars that bankrupt America and kill school children, schoolgirls. Is that what he is the GOAT of, Liam? Dr. Ben Stone says, who's the leader of the Democratic Party? There is no leader of the Democratic Party. It's a big tent, and there are a lot of stars in the Democratic Party right now. Bruh says, Washington Post claims Russia will help Iran with intelligence. I also saw that reporting as well. Mika says, thoughts on Hill County in Texas? I don't know anything about Hill County in Texas. BB Fan says, unfortunately, Democrat out of Arizona changed his mind and now is in support of the war. Are you talking about Gallego? Because I believe Gallego changed his mind and is no longer supporting the war. Kimberlina says, did fallen soldiers return and did Trump actually attend? I have not heard the reporting on that, Kimberlina. I know that Trump typically ditches things like that. James Rush says, how many of you think that this war won't blow up your homes? I am not confident that there's not going to be some sort of domestic terror attack, either directly by Iran or through proxy terrorists that Iran enables. And if you listen to Trump talk about that possibility, he really does not give a shit. He says his exact quote was something like, yeah, it might happen. People are going to die. That's war. What are you going to do? Luca Baudiero says, what's your opinion on real anarchism? I have not heard any arguments that I have bought about why anarchism would be better than other systems. Tiki Torch says it might be Newsom. Who might be Newsom? Steve Ginkle says if Israel can't take out Iran without U.S. help, do you think Saudi paid off Trump to assist? It's possible. The Saudis definitely bribed Trump. So what are they getting for that money? Who the fuck knows? Alrighty. John says no, he didn't attend. I called it again. Bruh says, do you have any thoughts on that vet who had his arm broke? That was awful. That vet was fucking dope as hell. I'm so proud of him for protesting and for putting his body on the line like that. And fuck everybody that hurt him. Fuck that senator. I think it was a senator or House rep, Republican, that fucking broke his arm. Just like fuck that guy, man. Like whoever, if you live in that dude's state or district, like goddamn, would I dedicate every second of my life to making sure that he does not win re-election, you know? Ooh, Tiki Torch says leader of the Democrats in 2028. I don't know if it would be Gavin Newsom. He might be the nominee for president, but I don't think that he's like the thought leader of the Democratic Party right now. Right, 312MQ says also heard that China is helping Iran, but not 100% if it's true. I also don't know if it's true, but if we're looking at this as a structure of like, you know, allies versus enemies versus adversaries, it's clear that China wants to help Iran as a proxy fighter against America, the same way that America is supporting Ukraine as a proxy fight against Russia. And so now we have a brand new axis of evil with China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. You know, so yeah. M says AOC Newsom ticket with AOC as president? I'm not mad at that. Average Joe says Gallego changed his vote to no, so math question, if 219 vote no and 4 of those are Democrats and 212 for yes, what would have the results been if the 4 Democrats didn't like the U.S. and Israel killing civilians? Yeah, I'm not really sure, Average Joe. I want to dig into those numbers. Yeah, I mean, any Democrat who does not vote every chance they can get to stop this stupid war and any escalation thereof, like, goddamn, unfucking believable. Just fucking lose those guys their primaries, you know? Like, do everything you can. Lady Lisa, Muzz King, Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. Yeah, I mean, as with everything, I think we need to recognize where the majority sits. Like, if the majority of Republicans are voting for the war and the majority of Democrats are voting against the war, then, you know, Democrats still better, you know? Mr. Mojo says, just join. What side do you want? I'm a progressive Democrat. Odinson, great to see you again. Says, AOC is my personal favorite, but I think she can win. Who is your personal favorite, Odinson? I like AOC a lot. Let's see here. Seabear says, talk about the Bill Heffernan speech in Australia. I have not seen that speech, Seabear, so I do not know. I do not know what you're referring to. Havoc says Democrats are the minority. They are the minority in government, but they are not the minority in the country. Okay, Jake Carey says Fetterman for president. Absolutely not. Free Will Fit says, why do you think AOC would be a good president? I think she's been, you know, she's a real fighter for the people. She's a progressive. She seems to be dead set focused on taking care of American citizens and making sure that we have a more affordable and safe country. All right. Havoc, I answered that one already. Let's see here. Mr. Mojo, I answered that one already. Havoc says they're the minority in the country. If not, Trump wouldn't be president. That is inaccurate. Havoc, if you would like to ask me why that is inaccurate, I will happily tell you. Dr. Benstone says Josh Shapiro and whoever. I like Josh Shapiro. Tiki Torch says, I'm not even joking, but breaking up monopolies and raising capital gains tax would fix everything. I mean, that's what they were doing during the Biden administration, and America voted for Republicans instead. So make that make sense for me, Tiki Torch. Filato says, I like lower taxes, lower inflation, lower gas prices, border control, defensive world peace, Trump. That is literally what is not happening right now. We are experiencing the opposite of all those things under Trump, Phil. So ask a question if you want to stick around. Texmo Bull King says, is your opinion biased? No, it is not. Brian Nagy says, Mark Kelly for 2028? I like Mark Kelly. He's not my first choice, but I like him a lot. Alrighty. Havoc says people are getting smarter, so the Democratic Party is dying. Congratulations, you are out of here. That's 3 strikes, my guy. Okay. Half the Mighty says, "What do you think Jasmine Crockett's next step should be?" I don't know if it's too late to run for another House seat. But I definitely hope that she stays in politics somehow. Because I do think that she is a quality communicator. Okay. DMA says, "Do you think the Heritage Foundation will succeed in ending our democracy? Not if good people like you and me do the work of stopping them." Tiki Torch says, "They didn't go far enough. Once big companies get their power, courage, people can't make a living." Yeah, but they were doing that, Tiki Torch. The Biden administration was in the process of doing that. They weren't able to accomplish it in 4 years because they lost the House, and also because we had corruptible Democrats like Manchin and Sinema in the Senate, and we had a 0-seat majority. But they were doing it. Filato says, "How do we get 9% inflation under Biden?" Do you really want to know, Filato? Because I don't think you do. Pepe says, "I don't read too much, but Jasmine searching Google looks like corrupt, too many military donations." I have a little bit more grace for Democrats where they get their funding, because Democrats have such a massive fundraising disadvantage because the billionaire class is on the side of the Republican Party. So yeah, that's the reason. That's part of the reason why I thought that Tallarico would be better. But I still think that she's a net positive. Tiki Torch says, "Yes, I agree with you. It's unfortunate they didn't go far enough. It was right there." I mean, all we had to do, Tiki Torch, was just continue voting for Democrats, and we would have had that world, But there were a lot of people out there who were either convinced to vote for Republicans because they thought that it would bring cost of living down. They thought there would not be stupid fucking wars, like is not happening now. And they thought that maybe Trump would be better for Palestine. Maybe they thought it'd be better to not vote at all because it was teach Democrats a lesson. And it sounds like we're on the same page here, Tiki, but I can never miss an opportunity to make this fucking point, which is that people are always saying, like, we need to not vote or vote for Republicans so that we teach Democrats a lesson. Well, how about the lesson that they were investing in renewable energy and we voted them out of office? How about the fact that we were breaking up monopolies and they voted them out of office? How about the fact that it was the first president that walked a picket line with the union and they voted us out of office, Toto says, "No, because Democrats are also bought too." Some Democrats do take money from billionaires and giant corporations, but there is a big difference, Toto, between what Democrats do in regards to the billionaire class and giant corporations and Republicans do to the billionaire class and giant corporations. Democrats are very much more the party of the 99%, and Republicans are very much more the party of the 1%. Ask me for more specifics about that. I am happy to give them. Kuntish says, "Would you vote for a Republican who forces you to shit your pants in public?" No, I would not. BB Fan says, "Any truth to Russia providing info of the U.S. to Iran?" I believe that has been reported accurately, BB Fan. Ollie PH says, "Opinions on Scottish independence. If that's what the Scottish people want, go for it." Citizen 5 says, "Biden's economy was good, but many didn't feel it." It was becoming better, but people were suffering under a cost of living crisis that was caused by the previous administration, and it took the Biden administration a long time to start fixing it because it was a really big problem, and people just did not put those pieces together. Alrighty, Toto says, "I actually work on fundraising in DC, and trust me, we're all bots. Democrats are just smarter." I find you sus as hell, Toto, because I know that what you just said is inaccurate. So you can ask a question or you can leave. Those are your two options. Pepe Orozco says, "Gina feels weak. You think she has a chance versus Abbott? Texas is weird." I have no idea about the governor's race in Texas, unfortunately. Bruh says, "Do you think Democratic nominee in Texas, Tallarico, has a chance to flip that seat?" I think he has an excellent chance of flipping that seat, 100%. Dr. Benstone says, "Do you think Elon will have a hand in the upcoming election?" Absolutely, 100%. Toto says, "Oh, my bad, I wasn't trying to cause a scene." Don't worry about it, Toto. I always give people lots of opportunities before I block them. Okay, John Selfridge, good to see you as well. "Do you think that we, the USA, fucked the world by attacking Iran? Global recession is coming." I do think that we fucked the world by attacking Iran, but mostly we fucked ourselves. It was one of the most egregious self-owns in political history. Hope and Bloom says, "Your take on Trump RX. It is a lazy attempt at looking like he is lowering costs, and it is not doing that even a little bit." I also personally find it very sus whenever Trump does anything. I'm always like, we're going to discover sooner rather than later that this is a mechanism for putting money into his own pocket. Nikita says, Israel first or America first? I am for the citizens of both those countries. I'm against the government of both of those countries. Bruh says, remember the no new war agenda? What happened to that? Excellent question, bruh. Filato says, go to your grocery store. What is your price of eggs? Look at the stock market, Filato. It is crashing because of Trump. All right. John Cato says, why did Jasmine lose? I think Tallarico just ran a better campaign. Amazing Abro says, Trump should stop trying to make peace in the Middle East. It's not going to work. I don't think he is trying to make peace in the Middle East. I think he's trying to do regime change. Mike Green says, do you ever notice when Republicans or MAGA do art, it's really terrible? I'm sure that there are some Republicans in MAGA who do good art, Mike Green, but I'm generally with you. Filato says, when I go to the gas station, I get a reminder of what it was like when Biden was in office. Gas prices are skyrocketing right now, Filato. Is that what you're referring to? That's happening under Trump right now. ZMT, hello. Dr. Benson says, is Cuba, Ecuador, etc. screwed? I mean, Trump has those nations in his sights. Whether or not he will follow through on it is anybody's guess. Whether or not us putting pressure on them will stop them is anybody's guess. So, yeah. Toto says she lost because of AIPAC. Toto, she did not lose because of AIPAC, my guy. I've read reporting that she is more in support of AIPAC than Tallarico was. So, you think that she lost because she was being funded by AIPAC and because she supported AIPAC? Let me know what you think about that, Toto. Citizen 5 says, why did Trump stop USAID? It is affecting my country very badly. Citizen 5, the reason why Trump stopped USAID is because Trump hates people who need assistance. Trump wanted to put that money in his pocket instead. And Elon Musk wanted to shut down USAID because they were investigating him. It was stupid. It was damaging. I am so sorry that Trump did that. I just want you to know that there are a lot of people like me who did not want that and who are fighting really hard to renew USAID and try to replace our current government. But goddamn, it was so fucking stupid. It was so fucking stupid and disastrous for so many people like yourself. I'm really sorry about that. Toto, yes, we're on the same page, Toto. T says, do you think this Iran war will last long? I think that the instability that we have caused in Iran will last long. What that looks like on the world stage and what that looks like Iran versus America as opposed to Iran versus Israel is anybody's guess. Okay, ZMT says, do you know Myanmar? I know of it. I do not know enough about the politics to talk about it. Izaki Doyle says, why does many Americans think that liberals are left-wing? They are right liberalist. I think that people in the center left can still be described as being left-wing. But, I'm more of a progressive Democrat, so I also wish that they would move further to the left. Citizen 5 says, we can't get some medicines like HIV treatment in my country because Trump stopped USAID. Yeah, and I'm really sorry about that, man. And I know that a lot of that medication is just sitting there on shelves dying, and a lot of that food assistance is just sitting on shelves going bad. So it's like cruelty for cruelty's sake, I'm really sorry about that, guy. God damn, I'm fucking really bummed out now. Average Joe says, would you agree the premise of voting no on this is absurd on its face? Even if it passed, it still had to go through the Senate. Even if it passed the Senate, Trump would veto it. Even if Trump signed it, there would still have to be a vote to approve the U.S. attacking Iran. They could have voted no then if they had such a hard time for blowing up Iranian schools with Netanyahu. I'm angry. I am exactly as angry as you, Average Joe. Honestly, had a hard time kind of following that question, but I think we're on the same page. We agree. This is fucking terrible. And if it were not for Republicans being in control of the entire fucking government, we could stop this tomorrow. We could stop this yesterday. Alrighty. Emilio Valdez says, did you see China getting more involved? Do you see China getting more involved with the war in Iran? I haven't seen any reporting about it, but if you look at the incentive structures, it makes sense that they would. 312 says, so do you think this will be a forever war? Trump is hinting at it already. I think it's going to look like one, even if it technically is not one. All right. At Symbol. I think you told me your name before, but I don't remember what it is. Did you hear about Kristi Noem getting fired? Yes, I did hear about Kristi Noem getting fired. Although technically she was not fired, she was just moved to a different position. All right, Dr. Benstone says Insurrection Act coming to block elections. So first of all, states run elections, so Trump does not have the ability to cancel elections. He can try to do things like the Insurrection Act. He can try to do things like declaring martial law. He can try to do things like having the FBI seize voting machines. He can try to do things like having ICE intimidate voters and closing streets in Democratic polling areas. But whether or not he is successful is entirely up to us. We and our state representatives have the opportunity, have the chance to stop him from stealing or stopping this election. It is not a done deal. He does not have control over that. We do, 100%. Alrighty, John Cato says, what do you think about the midterms staying red? I think that if we're able to stop all of the voter suppression and cheating that the Trump administration is going to try to do, then we're going to see a massive blue wave. But it is possible that the Republican voter suppression and chicanery will be successful. But I don't imagine it being successful. Meow, meow, meow. So stop the war before it stops itself. Agree with that. Tiki Torch says Trump knows he can't step down between the war and files. If he steps down, it's jail. I don't think it's as simple as that, Tiki Torch, but I do agree with you that, you know, the fewer Republicans that there are in government, the bigger the threat of accountability for him. Chris says, do you think the SAVE Act is dead? You never want to bet on Republicans doing the right thing. So I hesitate to put money on it. I'll just say that I think it's very unlikely that it passes. All right. Vinny says, I doubt it. Dems are the one who cheats. That is not accurate, Vinny. You have to ask a question or you will be booted. Bruh says, does Trump have to return the tariff revenue? I believe that is currently working its way through the Supreme Court, bruh. I need to look more into that to see if there are any updates. Tiki Torch says, TikTok comments are unfortunately limited, but yes, I agree. 100% Tiki Torch. You and I are on the same page. Kimberlina says, so is Noam in the same department as Captain America now? That's very funny. I haven't seen any reporting on this. This is just my guess. But I think that she is going to be heading up a department to work with other countries to try to cheat in American elections. That is my guess about what the American Defense League or whatever thing that she's working on now is. Mike says, what do you think about Booker? Cory Booker? I think he's fine. You know, not my favorite, but he's a pretty good guy, I think. Citizen 5 says, why are Republicans obsessed with budget deficit when rarely have it? I don't know. I think it's a political football. Like, I don't really think they give a shit. I think that they think that the idea behind the Democratic Party is that Democrats run up the deficit and Republicans don't, even though it's the opposite. So they use that to try to win elections. Lady Lisa says, I thought the budget for ICE, DHS, and CBP ran out. Oh, no. They had their budgets tripled, so they're good. They are just not approving more funding for DHS. Kimberlina says, well, I'm okay with that because she sucks at any job she does. From your lips to God's ears, Kimberlina. All right, Elliot says, what do you think about the UK politics? I don't know a ton about it. I would just encourage everybody to vote for left-wing parties, whether it's Labour or the Green Party or whatever. Dr. Benstone says, if Dems win, hope they don't impeach. You, ? Oh, no, I think they should impeach. I think they should impeach multiple times. I think it is the only just thing that can happen is for Trump to get impeached. And if you have a Republican, if you're being represented by a Republican currently, then you should be on the phone every fucking day demanding impeachment for all the shit that's been going on, you know? Cryptocurrency, selling pardons, ICE and CPB, war in Iran. Like, the list of reasons why he should be impeached is, you know, it's long, y'all. Elliot says, I'm so lost. Do you hate Trump or like him? I mean, I don't really hate anybody, but I don't like Trump. I think he is without a doubt the worst president that we've ever had. 312MQ says, do you think because Russia is helping Iran, it will affect Ukraine help? I think the biggest issue there is just us running out of hardware that we'll be able to send to Ukraine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the state of Russia's military is right now. Like, I know they kind of redid their entire economy to be producing, bullets and bombs and shit like that. So I'm not sure if they're at any danger of running out of resources the way that Ukraine and America are, but yeah, I don't know. It's a fucking quagmire, man. Citizen 5 says, I think Trump is starting a war with Iran to save his approval ratings. Well, I don't think that it's going to be successful, Citizen 5. Flamingo Mo says, what have you said or done that make it seem like you like or approve of Trump? Now I'm lost. I think that some people are just new to the chat. Average Joe says, Vinny with the sick burn. That was such an amazing own. I hope you have plenty of gauze because he burned everyone's asses. Which video are you referring to, man? Is he in your chat? I don't remember a Vinny over here. That was a long time ago. If it was. Yeah, I don't see any Vinnies, my guy. Elliot says, how many people run for president? Because in the UK we have like parties and a leader for each. There's really only two main parties in America, and those are the only ones that are actually competitive in American politics. BB Fan says, how do we get Dems to be serious and remove both Schumer and Jeffries? How do we get Sims to be serious? I mean, I find that there to be a lot of serious Democrats in the party. I think we got a really deep bench of excellent candidates. I think the problem is the breakdown of centrists that are elected in Congress versus progressives that are elected in Congress. And if you have somebody who is still, voting for Schumer and Jeffries to be the leaders of their respective caucuses, then I would put pressure on them to do something about that. I would invest in a primary challenge. But yeah, I think that the reason why Schumer and Jeffries are able to maintain their leader statuses is because, they have the votes. And so we either need to put pressure on the Democrats that are currently elected who have been voting for them, or replace them in the primary. All right, D. Scott, Muzking, Triska, Kim, Buckman, and Lady Lisa, thank you so much for helping reach my third gift goal of the day. And you know what that means, guys? It means it is the best part of every day. It is Finger Hearts o'clock. And TikTok has put Finger Hearts back where I can easily find it. Hell yeah. All right, Mr. Bald. What did Mr. Bald say? Yeah, he called me a Jew. Excellent block. Excellent block, Rena. All right. Wow. Muzking, Triska, Kim Buckman, and Vanessa have hit my first Finger Hearts goal already. Thank you so much, guys. I think you guys are just trying to get that Karis Nemec manifesto reading again, which, of course, will happen if I reach my final high bear goal, of course. Oh, the one that said Dems are the ones who cheated. Yeah, 100%. All right, let's see here. Native Overland says, Trump knows Georgia helped cheat during the 2020 elections. Georgia did not cheat during the 2020 elections. Native Overland, ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Gigi says, Trump is not enriching the country. He is enriching himself. That is 100% accurate, Gigi. Okay. Oh, my God. Finger Hearts are done again. Kim Buckman, Vanessa, Flamingo Mo, Lady Lisa, and Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my second Finger Hearts goal of the day. We're probably gonna get the Karis Nemec manifesto today, guys, if we keep this up. All right, scrolling up. Thank you, Lady Lisa. Scrolling up. All right, Native Overland says Trump is enriching the country. Oh yeah, so you're just saying nonsense. Did we block him yet? He's in question jail right now, but we'll see. We'll see if we gotta block him. Right, 312MQ says, how the hell do we get Fetterman out? Same way as we do everything. We primary him. Primary John Fetterman. Primary him to the bowels of hell. All right, scrolling down. And we have hit our final Finger Hearts goal today. Vanessa, Muzking, D. Scott, Kim Buckman, thank you so much. Now we are moving on to High Bears, of course. Where are we at, High Bears? All right. Yeah, let's see how we do, guys. All right. Let me see here. All right. We are a little light on questions today. Let's see if I can find some shit to comment on here. Alrighty. Has anybody requested? Pink Squirrel says, I'm a Democrat in Texas. Would it have been better if we would have voted in the Republican primary? I'm actually not really sure how the primary rules work in Texas. There are some states where you can vote in either primary or both. I think there's certain states we have to be registered for that party in order to vote in that primary. So I'm not really sure what those rules are in Texas. Generally speaking, I tend to suggest people just vote for the candidates that they like the best, and don't do any sort of like strategy sessions in your brain about who you think can win, or trying to like send a poison pill to the Republican Party or anything like that. We've reached my first high bear goal of the day, and for some reason the names disappeared. I'd love to thank you. I'm sure it's the usual suspects. Kimberlina says, can you explain how the one Democrat ran as Republican in Carolina? I think that I'm a little bit less sure of. I think there was a Democrat who ran and won and then just switched their party affiliation. But that specific one I'm not 100% sure about. Cammy says, I want to know how in the hell did Biden ever get to be president? I mean, everybody loved him, I think, Cammy. Does that answer your question? And everybody hated Trump? Does that answer your question, Cammy? Let me know. Native Overland says she ran as Republican and openly admitted it. Again, Native Overland, you know what? I'm going to be a stickler today and just go ahead and block you, because that was not a question. Graham says, thoughts on James Tallarico? I like James Tallarico a lot. I think he's got a good message. I think he's got a good strategy. So yeah, no tea, no shades. Average Joe says, did you pass along the info about the reps that voted no on the War Powers Act? I don't know, Average Joe. Did you want me to tell people about it? Do you have it in the chat here? Let me know. Oh, okay. So let's see here. Jared Golden of Maine, Greg Landsman of Ohio, Henry Queller of Texas, Juan Vargas of California. If anybody wants to research these 4 pro-genocide Democrats and go ahead and fucking primary them. Yeah, primary those guys out of existence. Yeah. I think you meant the Dems that voted no on the Wars Power Act, right? I just read the names of the Dems. Okay, let's get back into these TikTok comments. RD says, have any thoughts on the previous Shah of Iran accepting transition leader position? I have not seen any news about the current power structure of Iran. It seems like it's a real moving target where, it appears as though there was planning for this eventuality. It appears as though the Trump administration had people that they would prefer to take over after the Ayatollah was assassinated. Many of those people are dead, though, so I'm not sure where we stand at the moment. Alrighty, let's see here. Scrolling up. Gorka says, Epstein is new? No, I believe Epstein is dead. Correct? All right, Kimberlina says, thoughts on Al Jazeera news? Can't seem to find any news about Iran. It is really difficult. It is very difficult to figure out what's going on in Iran, because it's a very dangerous place to be right now, obviously. So war correspondents, and there's no internet access right now, so the war correspondents that are there can't even access the internet in order to send that information out there. So yeah, I don't know. It's really difficult right now, and it's really, the information is trickling out, just because it is. Yeah, it's a really difficult place to get information out of. Morges Grip says, should we tax highly of the rich? Yes, 100% we should tax highly of the rich. Lady Lisa says, what can we do to stop Party 2025 from continuing to be implemented? Lady Lisa, we do the work. And the work, as all of my regulars know, is varied. So there are a lot of different ways that we can be part of this coalition of stopping what's going on. Hope and Bloom says, do you think Ghislaine and Epstein are actually alive in other countries? I mean, Ghislaine is alive. She's just in prison, and she's in a cushy prison right now because Trump is trying to bribe her to not implicate him in Epstein's PDF activities, Kimberlina self-care is part of the work. That is accurate. Mia says, I think Kid Rock should be the new leader of Iran. I think I know what you're saying there, Mia, and that's pretty dark, but I'm not saying no. X Darth Dawkins says, do you think progressive populism is the way forward? Personally, yes. I'm sure that there are some Democratic pollsters who would argue that we need centrism in certain red and purple districts. I personally think that populism works everywhere. Blake says, what do you think of the Iranians celebrating the death of the Ayatollah? I mean, the Ayatollah was not a good guy, and it was a repressive regime. So I think it's completely fine that they were celebrating, if they were. Stephen Peters says, in your opinion, will the U.S. win this war against Iran? I don't think there is winning in this war, Stephen Peterson. The same way that there wasn't winning in Iraq, the same way that there wasn't winning in Afghanistan. It is just turmoil and chaos and wasting taxpayer dollars and wasting lives. Yeah, it's really fucking stupid. Joni says, new Epstein popping in UK, big scandal. Al Fayed today. Princess Diana's boyfriend was his son. Ooh, boy, interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, Joni. I gotta look into that. Blake says, leave Afghanistan was a little bit more justified than Iraq. Arguably, yeah, we were trying to find Osama bin Laden. Stephen Peterson says, do you think Iran will obliterate the U.S. like they claim? I do not believe that Iran has the military capacity to decimate America, but I do think it's possible that Trump and Iran and China could potentially ruin America if, we the people do not do the work of trying to stop him. All right, Alice says, did you hear that Bondi wants to stop state investigations on DOJ concerning ethics? I haven't heard about that, Alice, but it tracks, Jolly says, do you think Trump will last 3 more years? He looks so sick and sleepy all the time. Yeah, pieces of shit have a habit of living forever, unfortunately. Oh, excuse me. All right, we are at 10 minutes. We got about 10 minutes left in the live stream today, everybody. And we're 32 high bears away from the Karis Nemec manifesto. Blake says, how about Desert Storm? Personally, I think it was fully justified. I think it's a stretch, Blake. That's not really my specialty, though. Like, that happened during the 90s. And, yeah, I was a kid back then. I have not really looked into it, unfortunately. Pink Squirrel says, look at Mitch McConnell. Yeah, when's that guy gonna fucking leave this earth? When I was doing stand-up tour, I was selling these hats that said, I exercise to outlive Mitch McConnell. And I stopped selling them because he had that, like, brain freeze. And I was like, fuck me, this guy's going to die, like, any second now. And I think it's a little, I don't think we have to celebrate Mitch McConnell after he passes away, but I think it would be a little bit inappropriate for me to sell those hats if he was actually dead. And yet he's still kicking. Unfucking believable. Dolly, Triska, Vanessa, Kim Buckman, Tink, and D. Scott, thank you so much for helping me reach my second high bear goal of the day. Last one, and we get the manifesto, everybody. Again, I don't know if this is motivation for y'all, but it is a fun thing that we're doing now these days. Alice says, does Trump want to place a leader in charge of Iran? Yes, 100%. He wants, if it was up to him, every single world leader would be a Trump toady so that he could extract resources and favors from those nations as well. In addition to him stealing American taxpayer dollars, he could steal money from the French and the Russians and the Iranians and the Venezuelans, etc. Flamingo Moses, do you still have any of those hats? No, but I'm currently selling bottles that say I exercise to outlive conservative judges. Blake says, I think since it wasn't a long war and it was to protect Kuwait from Hussein, that's why I supported it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure an argument could be made, Blake. That's not a hill that I'm willing to die on. Scott Clower says, Mitch had the chance to stop Trump and didn't. Sacked the court with MAGA hacks. 100% accurate, Scott Clower. Lady Lisa says, should there be term limits for all positions in government? I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea, too, Lady Lisa. And we have hit the final high bear goal. Rem, V, Vanessa, D, Scott, Triska, Muzz King. Thank you so much. We are officially here. It's happening, y'all. The magic is happening. There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere. And even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And then remember this. The imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. And know this. The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try. All right, let's see. Let's get back into these comments, everybody. Average Joe says, I thought tortoises could live for over 150 years. Blake, that is from Andor Season 1. And if you have not watched Andor Seasons 1 and 2 and then immediately watched Rogue One again, highly recommended. Highly recommended. You cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong. Rena and Lauren and Mia and Musking, thank you so much, everybody. Stephen Peterson says, about a week ago, the leader of NATO said that they will help the U.S. if needed. Do you believe him? Oh, that is a really good question, Stephen Peterson. I mean, we still are a part of NATO, which means that we are still obligated to protect every nation that gets attacked under Article 5. But if it's retaliation against a war that America started against Iran, an illegal war that America started, like, I don't know, man. There is sort of like a knee-jerk, we kind of have to go along with the support of America that a lot of our allies do, even though it has become a toxic relationship. So I could understand world leaders who desperately want to stand up to Donald Trump feeling like they have to support America because of Article 5. But I just don't know. I just don't know. And I do not think that they should. All right, Gogo says, is ANCAP possible? I do not know what ANCAP is. Kimberlina, you have a great weekend as well. Wyatt says, thoughts on the Board of Peace and Trump using U.S. funds to line his pocket through this new Board of Peace? It is stupid, Wyatt. As with everything that Trump does, it is stupid and it is a grift. Gogo says, anarcho-capitalism. I have not heard an argument that I find convincing to support anarcho-capitalism. You know, if we reach these donuts goal, maybe I'll do the "What a Piece of Work is Man" speech from Hamlet, guys. Blake says, what do you think of Marco Rubio? Marco Rubio I gave a little bit of respect to because it did seem like he was standing on his principles during the first Trump administration, but goddamn, has that dude fucking sold his soul recently, you know? Jesus fucking Christ. What an unbelievable disappointment Marco Rubio was. Like, I understand the Democrats that voted to nominate him because he seemed like the normal one, you know, compared to Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. You know, it's like we were begging for a Marco Rubio to be in there fucking reining in all the psychopathy. But no, man, he's just fucking in there, my guy. He is just fucking in there. All right, Tink, Buzzking, Kim Buckman, Triska, Puck, we hit our donuts. So I guess I'm doing fucking Hamlet for you guys. Let's see here. Yeah, I've never gone past donuts. What's a good thing past donuts here? Seen a lot of 99. I'm not seeing a lot of 50s though. What do we got here? All right. Oh, let's do paper. Oh no, let's do little crowns. I like little crowns. All right, here we go. I have of late, but wherefore I know not, lost all my mirth. Forgone all custom of exercise, and indeed it goes so heavily with my disposition that this goodly frame of the earth seems to me a sterile promontory. This most excellent canopy, the air, look you, this brave o'erhanging firmament, this majestic roof, fretted with golden fire. Why, it appeareth no other thing to me than a foul and pestilent congregation of vapors. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and movement, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god. the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. And yet to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Man delight's not me. No, nor woman neither, though by your smiling you seem to say so. Woo-wee! That's all the monologues I have memorized so far right now, guys. I'm working on other ones. My wife has requested that I do the very demure monologue. Louis says, hey, are you Republican or a Democrat? I'm a Democrat. Blake says, do you think maybe Marco feels he has to be full MAGA? Could he not be like Pence once Trump's out? I generally think that Marco Rubio is only thinking about Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio either is going to try to run for president or he just wants to keep some position of power in government so he can continue siphoning money into his own pocket. But yeah, fuck that dude, man. Gogo says, do you think communism is possible? I think it's possible if we think about it on like a scale where we don't have to just be capitalist or communist. We can have communist principles in a capitalist system because we already do. We know that we already do. We have employee-owned companies. We have worker protections. But we could do more. You know, we could have a law that says that the lowest paid employees need to have representation on boards of directors. We should have incentives for companies to be employee owned. There are ways that we can sort of like have a more equitable workers owning the means of production sort of economy without having to go full communist, the government owns everything, everybody owns everything kind of a thing. BB Fan says, isn't that socialism? It really depends on how you define those terms. And I know Average Joe is fucking tearing his hair out over there on Twitch because he likes these semantic arguments and I do not. The way that I break it down is communism is the workers under the means of production. Socialism is when we all pay taxes to the government and the government uses that money to buy things that help everybody. So socialized medicine would be us paying into taxes and then we get free healthcare, stuff like that. Blake says, what do you think about libertarianism? Libertarianism has never worked. And additionally, if you read Dark Money, which is basically the history of libertarianism, you discover that the entire movement was created by the billionaire class because that's the political philosophy that gives them the most money and power and least accountability. You know, the Koch brothers accidentally killed a couple of teens because they decided to save a little bit of money on one of their gas pipes. They want libertarianism so that they wouldn't have to pay any restitution for those teens that they accidentally murdered. They manslaughtered, you know. Hal says, thoughts on current events. Things aren't looking great, Hal, but if good people like you and me do the work, we can get out of this. Lady Lisa says, I believe the end is near for the MAGA movement. From your lips to God's ears, Lady Lisa. T says, are you up to date on UK politics? Do you think the Greens have a chance? I know very little about UK politics. I'm actually learning about it mostly from people in the UK who are engaging in these live streams. It seems like the Greens are polling better than the Tories and Reform and even Labour. And so, and if Green are further to the left than Labour and they're winning, like, I think that's great, you know. Blake says, personally, I think the MAGA movement mostly ends with Trump being out. Completely agree with that. T says, Reform is funded 10x more than the Greens. I totally fucking believe that because Reform is a far-right party. And billionaires fucking love far-right parties. That's the reason why the Republican Party is so much better funded here in America. BB Fan says, any tips on how to tackle Talking Points USA? It's the same as everything else, BB Fan. We got to talk to people in real life. Talking Points USA has the infrastructure and they have the money to spread their message far and wide, both in person on college campuses and on the internet. And so how do we combat that? Each of us has to individually be the messenger against right-wing propaganda, bullshit narratives, and misinformation. Go says, do you think you can mix religion and politics? I don't think it's a good idea, but I think that we should have separation of church and state. Blake says, as a Brit, I really don't like how the Greens want to move away from nuclear energy. You know, Blake, I don't know what the Greens' position is on nuclear energy, but here's what I would say in response. It takes 10 years for a new nuclear power plant to come online. And in America, we were printing a nuclear power plant's worth of solar panels every day during the height of the Biden administration. So if we can not invest in more nuclear power plants, but just use nuclear to help us transition to the renewable energies of the future, like fusion and solar and wind and hydroelectric and shit like that, I think that's a great policy. I don't think we need to be building new nuclear power plants. I just don't think that we should be tearing down the ones that we currently have. Let's see here. MAGA Forever says, have you been checked for low T? Has your mom been checked for my sperm in her mouth? Gogo says, do you think far left and far right are equally bad? No. No, the far right is way worse than the far left. Bruno says, what do you think about communism? It depends on how you define it. Bruno, if it's just workers under the means of production, I'm for it. T says, who do you think the best U.S. president of the last 50, 60 years is? I'm a big fan of JFK. I would love to answer that, but I don't have enough historical knowledge to get there. Blake says, and also transition from uranium to thorium. Yeah, I've heard about the promise of thorium being like a lower impact nuclear energy. But yeah, nuclear as it stands definitely has its flaws. And so I do not mind slowly moving away from it. But, depending on how thorium and fusion and wind and solar work, like you can all be a part of getting us away from dangerous forms. CS says, does MAGA realize that they have CDS, California Derangement Syndrome? Let's hope that catches on. Maybe like BSDS, like Blue State Derangement Syndrome, which I also like because it has BS in the title. Audrey says, who would you like to see most as president? My number one pick right now is Chris Murphy. I like him because he's just he's just a keep your head down and do the fucking progressive work kind of a guy. Gogo says, how come every far left society ended in mass murder then? I do not believe that is accurate, Gogo. I believe that if you are doing mass murder, you are by definition not a far left society. Blake says, are there any Republicans you like? It's a sliding scale because even the best Republican is still caping for trickle-down economics, supply side, cutting taxes for the rich kind of bullshit. So it really is, that's like the best you can get, and I think that that's a piece of shit position to take. And I think that you are hurting people if that is your position. So, yeah, people that are standing up to Trump, people that are working really hard to get the Epstein files out there. So that's, Thune? Is it? Massey. No, it's Thomas Massey and Nancy Grace. Is that the other one? Another one? There's a handful of them, Mitch McConnell fucking sucked. Not Mitch McConnell. Mitt Romney fucking sucked, but at least he stood up to Trump. Mike Pence fucking sucked, but at least he stood up to Trump. Nancy Mace. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Gogo says, name me one communist society that hasn't ended in mass murder. I can't, because there has never been a communist society, Gogo. And there have been countries that have called themselves communists, but they are dictatorships and not communists. Triska says, do you agree Melanie Stansbury is a superstar Dem? Actually, I don't know too much about Melanie Stansbury. I would love to check them out. Is Gucci says, Mike Pence isn't standing up for Trump now. Do you mean he's not standing up for or not standing up to? Because I don't know what Mike Pence is up to these days, but he at least did not go along with Trump's attempt to steal the 2020 election. So, respect for him. All right, everybody, I am going to get out of here. I don't know if you guys like my monologues or if you just like me and so you like my monologues, but I'll keep doing them as incentive for reaching gift goals if you guys really do like them. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you do not have to. I know that we're all struggling in a rapidly increasing cost of living crisis, but if you have the means and you have the desire, the mechanisms are there. You can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send emotes and bits on Twitch, and I just added a whole bunch of new bits and emotes, so let me know if you like those. What else? You can be a super fan on TikTok, and you can become a subscriber on Twitch. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel for free. Costs you $0, helps me out a ton. And a special love and thank you to all of my regular patrons: Robert, Shannon, Carmine, Patrick, Melissa the Two Shans, Dan Blackroyd, Pliff, Triska Musking, and It's the Rocketeer. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to be doing, I think, a special early show on Tuesday because I'm doing the God podcast during the regular streaming time this upcoming Tuesday. If there are any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, then do not be shy about reaching out. I want to be a resource for y'all. So if there's anything I can do to help you be more informed or involved in politics, do not be shy. Use me to abuse me. Use me until you use me up. DMs are open. You can also email me through my website or hit me up on my Discord channel. Discord is also great because there's recommendations there for books and podcasts and also nonprofit organizations that you should 100% be donating your time and money to, because we need good people like you to do the work. That is the only way that we get out of that. I get out of this fucking quagmire that we are currently suffering under. So yeah, do the work, everybody, and be good to each other. You don't have to be a dick to do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys on Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.